Good day, students. You are welcome to the class for today. This is a Isaac Humanitarian Foundation e-learning platform, and today's class we have a literature in English. I am your host for today. My name is Kayode Olugbola, your literature in English teacher for today's class. Today, we want to look at the topic literary concepts and terminologies. Literary concepts and terminologies, yes. We all know that literature is a subject that mirrors life. Literature is a subject that mirrors life. How? By reflecting on societal events and happenings. It reflects on societal events and happenings in order to correct them. Yes, literature reflects on the events that take place in our immediate society, and the aim of reflecting on that is that it aims at correcting social vices. It aims at correcting societal ills and deviant behavior. Now we have literary concepts. What are the literary concepts and terminologies that are used to correct things in the society? Number one that I want to discuss is satire. Yes, satire. That's the first thing. We have all these are literary concepts and terminologies. Number one, satire. Number two, eponym. Number three, pseudonym. 4, blur. 5, epirima. 6, reservoir. 7, negritude. 8, caricature. 9, coincidental. 10, parody. Burlesque, lampoon, and bucolic. These are literary terminologies and concepts which we are going to focus on in today's class. So let's start now. Number one, satire. What is satire? Satire is a work of art that exposes societal vices, ills, and deviant behavior. 3 things here. It exposes societal vices, societal ills, and deviant behavior. So these are unwanted things in the community. Deviant behavior. These 3 things are negative negative activities in the society, and a work of art that focuses on reflecting on them so as to correct them is called a satire. So in literature, satire is best defined as a work of art that exposes societal vices, ills, and deviant behavior with the underlying motive of correcting them. Yes, a work of art is satirical when it exposes negative activities in society, and the aim of doing that is to provide solutions or to correct those social vices that are prevalent in the community. That's why when you pick up a literature text, and you read such a text, and in the text the writer is reflecting on negative attitudes, negative activities, vices that are rampant in the community. The aim of such a work is to correct them. Hence, the class of such work is called satire. Example, our Harvest of Corruption. If you look at that play, Harvest of Corruption, written by Frank Olugbola, that play is satirical. Why? Because it condemns the selfish interest, the inordinate ambition of the so-called African ruling class. The play Harvest of Corruption is a political satire that condemns the corruption that is prevalent in governance. It shows how African leaders engage in what? In all forms of corrupt practices, ranging from what? Embezzlement of funds, drug trafficking, sexual escapades, falsification of contract work documents, and so on and so forth. Now note, the play exposes the corruption that is prevalent in what? In governance. And then the aim of doing that is what? Is to teach the up and coming what? Generation that we should not indulge in what the minister indulged in the story, so that we too, the up and coming generation, will not what? End up as Chief Adiamaka ended up in the story. So that becomes what? A satire. Also, if you read this poem, Ambush by Bemisola Adeoti, Ambush by Bemisola Adeoti is an African poem, but it is what? It is a political word, satire. Why is the poem a satire? The poem reflects on the failures of what? Of African leadership. The poem shows what? That African leaders have failed what? The common masses. That is why our continent is not what? Is not progressing, despite the business efforts, the investments that masses make in Africa, yet all their efforts go down the drain. That's why they walk like what? Like Peter, who is a what? On empty ship. So the poem is a satire, mocking what? The failures of African world leadership. Also, if you look at your poem again, Vanity, written by Biragodio. The poem is equally what? A satire. Why? It is a mockery on the conditions of what? Of African people. Why? For abandoning what? Their cultural values, their customs, their traditional what? Heritage and ancestral what? Worship. So, generally speaking, satire is a work of art exposing what? Social vices with the underlying motive of what? Correcting them. Look at number 2. Eponym. Eponym is a story in which the major character and the title share the same name. A story in which the major character and the title share the same name. That is, the name of the hero is also used as the title of the word story. And the example of that, we have plays like, if you look at your play, Othello. Othello is an eponym. Yes. Look at Macbeth. Macbeth is another example. Look at Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar. Look at Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet. Look at your King Lear. Yes. Look at let's see others. Okay, let's look at Hamlet. Look at Hamlet. These are plays written by William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare wrote them. He wrote Othello, Macbeth, Julius Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, King Lear, Hamlet. But in Othello, who is the main character? Othello. In Macbeth, as a play, who is the main character? Macbeth. In Julius Caesar, who is the main character? Julius Caesar. In Romeo and Juliet, who are the main characters? Romeo and Juliet. In King Lear, who is the main character? Lear. In Hamlet, who is the main character? Hamlet. So when you have a story that shares the same name with the writer, when you have a story that shares the same name with the major character in it, that story is called an eponym, or you call it eponymous story. We call it eponymous story. Yes, it is an eponymous story. Then that character that shares the same name with the title is called an eponymous character. Take note. It's called an eponymous character. I hope to explain to you all. Look at number 3. Pseudonym. The third one is pseudonym. What is pseudonym? Pseudonym is a literary concept where a writer publishes a work of art under a fake, false, or disguised name. When the writer of a work of art adopts a fake name or disguises his or her appearance to publish that work, the work becomes what? A pseudonym. Example, read this novel called Animal Farm. Animal Farm. Or you read another novel called 1984. 1984. These two novels, they are written by the same person. The writer of these two novels is George Orwell. George Orwell wrote the two. George Orwell wrote the two novels. But class, take note. The author, who is George Orwell, his real name is not George Orwell. His real name is not George Orwell. His real name is Eric Blair O'Brien. This is the man's real name. George Orwell's real name, real identity is Eric Blair O'Brien. Yes, a Russian. From Russia. Now, Eric Blair O'Brien, he wrote these two novels, Animal Farm and 1984, to do what? To expose the ills of communism in Russia, to expose the misgovernance in his country that political leaders engage in, particularly the big brother party. The two novels, they are condemning what? The selfish interest, the inordinate ambition, the selfish attitudinal what? Interest, the irresponsibility and irresponsiveness of the political leaders in this country to the welfare and plight of what? The common masses. But then Eric Blair O'Brien knew that if he had used his real name, the Russian government would be after him to get him what? Arrested. That is why he now adopted a fake name. He disguised his appearance as what? George Orwell. So as what? To prevent his arrest by who? Russian government. Therefore, a work of art that is written and published by a writer under a fake, false, or disguised name is called pseudonym. Take note. It is called pseudonym. Look at number 4. Blog. Number 4 is blog. When you pick up a literature work, literature text, at the back, at the end of the text, you always have what? A brief summary. You always have a brief summary of the action in that word text. When you pick up a literature book, literature work, at the end of the story, there is always what? A short summary of the whole action in that text. So the short summary of a work of art at the back or the jacket is called blog. If you pick your Othello, for example, if you finish Act 1, Scene 1, you now see a summary of what happens in Act 1, Scene 1. By the time you go to Act 1, Scene 2 again and you finish it, you also have summary of what happens in that particular scene. So you always have what? Summary of the whole world, acts and scenes. So the short summary of a work of art at the back or at the jacket is called blog. Blog is otherwise called synopsis. Take note. It's otherwise called synopsis. It is the short summary of a work of art at the back or at the word jacket. Take note. Look at number 4. Epirima. Epirima is a character. Epirima is a character that gives the concluding speech to end dramatic actions on a stage. If you have watched a stage play before, at the end of what the stage play or performance, a particular character will now come on board to give what the last speech. The character comes on board to give you the last speech. The speech is what is meant to what? To end dramatic performance. That character is called an epirima. So epirima is a character that gives the concluding speech so as to round off what? Dramatic performance on a stage. Look at this. Raisonnement. Raisonnement is a character that comments on the actions of other characters. A particular character that provides comments on the roles and actions of others within a story is called a raisonnement. Take note. Now, let me go back to epirima. I said epirima is a character that gives what? The concluding or final speech to end a drama. Go and read Othello. If you read Othello, you find that the last character there is Lodovico. The last speaker there is Lodovico. Lodovico's speech. Who's Lodovico in the story? That is Desdemona's what? Cousin. That's Othello's wife's cousin. Desdemona's cousin. That's Lodovico. The man told Iago, oh Spartan dog, look at the tragic loading on this bed. Meaning, look at the death on this bed. Othello died. Desdemona died. Even Emilia too was killed by Iago. He said, Iago, oh Spartan dog, look at the tragic loading on this bed. This is thy fault. I will straight board a ship to Venice to go and relay what? This heavy act. With what? Heavy act. That is what called epirima. Also, read Tempest. Read Tempest by William Shakespeare. In Tempest, you have a character called Prospero. Prospero, at the end of the story, gave what? A concluding speech that brought the drama to an end. Such a character is called an epirima. Why a character that provides comment on the roles and actions of others is called a raisonnement. Look at this. Negritude. Negritude is a movement introduced by the former Senegalese president who was Leopold Sedar Senghor. Leopold Sedar Senghor was the independent president of Senegal. He was the independent president of Senegal, and he introduced that movement, Negritude, to do what? To promote African literary and cultural practices. Negritude is a movement aimed at what? Celebrating African literary styles, African cultural values and and practices. That is why today, when you have a poem celebrating African culture, African value system has been ahead of its European counterpart, such a poem is classified as what? A negritude poem. Example, Vanity, written by Beragojo. Example, Envy and the Hammer, written by Kofi Awono. Example, Piano and Drum, written by Gabriel Okara. Example, I Will Pronounce Your Name, written by Leopold Sedar Senghor. These are what? African poems celebrating what? African cultural value system, our religious, superstitious beliefs, our what? Our ancestral worship and cultural heritage. Such poem is called Negritude. Negritude, a movement celebrating what? African cultural value system and literary practices. Take note. Next, caricature. We have caricature. Caricature is if you look at get any of the Nigerian newspapers. Get any of the Nigerian newspapers. Yes, newspapers. At the end of the newspapers, you only see cartoons. They can draw President Buhari at the back. They will draw President Buhari with big head and thin body. That is what called caricature. So what is the meaning? Caricature is an artistic drawing. Is an artistic drawing that depicts what? A person's most prominent feature. But the intention is what? To mock them. When you engage in an artistic drawing to highlight a person's what? Peculiar feature or most prominent feature, but the intention is to ridicule or mock the person, which is called caricature. So caricature means an artistic drawing that has what? The intent of mocking a person. How? By highlighting what? Their most prominent feature. So called caricature. Look at next. Polysyndeting. It is a literary device or literary concept where a work of art is punctuated. It is a device or a literary concept where a work of art is what? Excessively punctuated. Meaning you have excessive use of what? Punctuations. You have excessive use of punctuations in a work. It can be drama, it can be prose or poetry, but it is a peculiar feature of poetry. Look up, go and check the poem. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? And then look at Proud King as well. Proud King. So that those poems, they are what? Excessive punctuations. You have comma, you have full stop, you have semicolon, you have question mark. Go and check Proud King. You see, Proud King, chapter 1, you have full stop, you have comma, you have semicolon, you have hyphen. When a work of art has the excessive use of punctuations in literature, it is a concept called polysyndeting. Go and read this poem by Wole Soyinka titled Telephone Conversation. Go and read Telephone Conversation by Wole Soyinka. So that the poem is what? Excessively punctuated. And the aim of the poet for using the excessive punctuation is what? To show the process by which what? The white discriminate against what? The black in the poem. Take notes. Next, we have parody. Parody is an artistic writing, a literature work, a work of art that shows the mistakes in other writers' works with the intention to ridicule them. Now, let me break down. We have Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A wrote a book. Mr. A wrote a book and published it. Then, Mr. B now wrote his own book to show the mistakes that are in Mr. A's work, published book. And the aim of Mr. B writing his own is what? To condemn, to mock, or ridicule the mistakes in Mr. A's work of art. That is what called parody. So parody is defined as what? A work of art that highlights the mistakes in other writers' works with the intention to what? Ridicule or mock them. Next, we have burlesque. What is burlesque? Burlesque is the imitation of an action on a stage. The imitation of an action on a stage with the intention to ridicule is called burlesque. Now look at 3 things. I mentioned caricature. Caricature is an artistic drawing that mocks. Parody is a literary work that mocks. Burlesque is a drama that mocks. So in burlesque, burlesque means dramatic presentation on a stage. To do what? To mock a person. How? By highlighting the person's most prominent feature. For example, when I was in the university, we presented some playlets on campus, and one of the plays was meant to ridicule the Hausa race, not necessarily to condemn them, but to show their way of life, but in a funny manner. Look at it. We have one Yoruba man coming from there, and this Hausa man coming from here. Why they are coming? The Yoruba man has black magic. That's beneficial power. Why they are coming? The Yoruba man was coming from that angle, while the Hausa man was coming from this place. So when they are coming, the Yoruba man used his body to touch the Hausa man's body. Suddenly, the Hausa man's main organ disappeared. So the Hausa man ran to the Yoruba man, walai, kai. You never go. My team don't go. So he began to show people his trouser that what? Nothing is here as what? Male organ again. So the Yoruba man now touched him. So the thing came back. So as the Hausa man was about to leave, he said, walai, kai, this thing is too big. Not be my size. Can you see? Such a play that you present to ridicule a person by what? Imitating their action or lifestyle. What's it called? It is called burlesque. Take note. Next, lampoon. Lampoon is a poem that mocks a person. Lampoon is a poem that is written to mock or ridicule a person. A poem that is written for the purpose of ridiculing or mocking a person is called lampoon. And then lastly, we have bucolic. Bucolic is what? Is a literature that shows what? Life of people in rural area. Bucolic is a literary writing that shows the lives of people in rustic, rural, or village setting. Once you have a work of art depicting the lives of people in rustic area, rural area, village setting, it is called bucolic literature. What we call pastoral writings or idyllic writings. Bucolic or pastoral writing or idyllic setting. Take note. So I hope all these are clear to us. Satire, eponym, pseudonym, blog, epirima, raisonnement, negritude, caricature, pseudonym, parody, burlesque, lampoon, and bucolic. Yes, this is where I'm going to pause the class for today. I will see you all again some other time. This e-learning platform was brought to us by Isaac Humanitarian Foundation. See you some other time. Good day, class.